2010 by the GARCIAs. We're locally owned and operated. We were the first distillery in Kansas City and the first legal distillery in the state of Kansas since Prohibition. Okay? 100% grain to glass, everything done in-house at this one facility. Okay? So we do have 3 different rooms that we'll take you guys through. So we have the stable, which is this room. The one that we were just in is called the rider room. And then the one we'll go through is the paddock. Okay? In this room alone, for a seated dinner, we can seat roughly about 175 to 200 people, okay? If it's a plated dinner, we can get a little bit more in here because we will put tables back over here and over here. Where you see the long table there, that's where they put the buffet. So usually that's like where it's a 175 to 200 people on this side. So this is our main room. This is kind of where everything happens. This is where everybody wants to be, is in this big one, because you're out here where the action is, okay? So as we go into the rider room, this is kind of a little bit of the throwback kind of feel, kind of like a 70s.
So you rent this out?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, okay. You can rent each room individually. You can rent the entire facility.
I got you.
Yep.
And then you just have to hire outside food source?
So we have a certified catering list. You have to use one of those people. You can bring in one that's not on that list, but you have to pay an additional cost on top of that. Yep.
Yeah.
So this is the rider room. So this is kind of like the throwback. So 99.9% of the time, when people are having events, they'll have their dinner service in there, the DJ, dancing, whatnot. Cocktail service will be in here. So this is actually our functioning bar for this. So this is where our bartenders will be, so everybody will come here and get their cocktails in here. All the artwork and light and all the fiction and everything is done locally by local artists. Okay?
Super cool.
So then this factory here, this thing is called a paddock. So we will have people utilize this either for business meetings. We do have a drop-down screen here that we have projection in full PA throughout. So you can have your business meeting here, and you can do your breakouts in there. You can go out there for lunch or whatnot, and then come back in. We have had people actually have their wedding ceremony in here. We'll set up all the chairs. People will actually get married in here. They'll go out there for cocktail hour. They'll close this barn door and actually flip this room for seating during that. This door actually does close. It is a functioning barn door. So it gives us nice privacy. So this barn door actually came from a barn in western Kansas. It was struck by lightning, and this was the only thing that was left. So the gentleman actually refinished it. And how are you?
Good, good to see you. Yeah, Patrick. Hey, good to see you. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Zach.
Zach, Patrick.
Nice to meet you.
Cool, nice to meet you.
So this is Patrick Garcia, one of the co-founders, and head distiller. He's the man.
Yeah.
He's the man behind all the juice that gets to your lips.
That's right. Yeah. So we went. You did the first barrel pig.
We did the barrel pig.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to see if we could do something special for Kansas.
Definitely.
You know, he says you guys are working on some stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And Travis got some samples ready for you guys.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we just
Yeah. Once you guys finish up showing them around, and then I'll step back by over here. And
Perfect.
Okay.
help you guys taste and stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Excellent.
Right.
So we try to stay as local as possible. So all of our grains are from the Midwest. Our wheat is obviously 100% Kansas wheat. Our corn and barley come from both Missouri and Iowa. And then our rye, because it's a cold cover crop, has to come from your northern states, so the Dakotas and like Minnesota. So they all come in these big bags here, okay? So what they'll do is they'll then transfer those bags to these holding bins here, okay? So our grains. So all of our mash bills are 1,000-pound mash bills. So for instance, our rye, it's the only 100% rye in the Midwest, so it's 1,000 pounds of rye. Our bourbon is an 80-20, so it's 80% corn, 20% rye, so 800 pounds of corn, 200 pounds of rye, okay? So after it's weighed out, then they will roll it over into our mill room over here. So what it has 2 cogwheels that go together. Yes, the 2 cogwheels that go together. So what they do is actually in between every single grain. So if we're doing the bourbon, we'll start with the corn first because it's the biggest grain. And they actually have feeler gauges, if you remember gapping spark plugs back in the day. So what they do is they actually hand adjust it to make sure that the cogwheels are at the right setting, because you don't want it too close together where it actually pulverizes it, but you don't want it too far apart where it doesn't crack it open. So if we're doing the bourbon, they always start with the corn first, and then when they go to the rye, then they actually hand adjust it with the feeler gauges to make sure that there's enough space in there, and not, because if you go straight from the corn to the rye without adjusting it, the rye, because it's pretty much like a grain of rice, it'll fall straight through without being cracked open. So this is our #1 hardest working employee here. It goes up a blue pipe, which is called a flex auger, which pretty much has like a slinky in it, and it just drives the grains up to the other side of the wall here. There are some hot things in here, okay? So kind of mind what you touch.
Super clean, you know what I mean? Like it's so organized.
Oh yeah.
So as it comes in, the white thing is called the sock, okay? So this is our mash. So the sock will be inside that, and it drops the grain into our mash tun, okay? So again, if we're starting with the corn first, 2 reasons we start with the corn first. 1, because it is the hardest grain to break down, it takes the longest for it to break down. And 2, you have to cook it at a higher temperature. So if we're doing our bourbon, this gets up to about 220 to 219 degrees or so, okay? So once that's milled into here, we'll then begin mashing it. So it'll sit here and cook for about 6 hours or so. They will then drop the temperature in this. It has a cold jacket that runs around to drop it down before we introduce the rye. It has to be below 191 degrees before we introduce the rye. If you put it in there instantly, it'll kill it, and it pretty much turns to porridge at that point, and it's useless. We cannot use it anymore. We have to dump it.
So you're cooking the mash right now?
Exactly.
Very cool.
So we'll then transfer it and pump it into one of the open fermentation tanks. See if we got anything going on in here. So the second one is open. You guys can climb up there and look into it if you'd like on Wednesday.
So yeah?
Yep.
You can see the
So at this point, we're pretty much making beer. So Patrick was actually a brewer for about 8 years. So this side of it, he knew what to do. When we get to this step, this is where we had to get a little help. So by the time it'll sit in an open fermentation tank for about 4 to 5 days. At the time that is done, it's sitting roughly about 12.5 to 13% alcohol at that time, okay? From there, it'll be pumped into our still, okay? Our still's name is Chester Copperpot. That was the Goonies.
oh,
Chester Copperpot was the explorer in the Goonies. Yeah. So everybody names their still. It's bad luck if you do not name your still. Okay. So this is our 500-gallon still. Okay. So we go from a 1,000-pound mash, then pump it into our 500-gallon still. Okay. So they usually start this up about between 7 and 7:30 every morning. It takes about an hour and a half for it to come up to temperature. Okay. So at that point is when the fun begins. So there's 3 different parts of distillation. You have the heads, the hearts, and the tails, okay? So the heads is the very beginning process. That's the icky, ethanol, oily side of it. Then you have the hearts, which is the purest part of distillation, and that's the only thing that we use here is the hearts. And then the finishing is called the tails. It almost smells like that, like your gym locker that you haven't cleaned out for a couple of months and has that sour smell to it. That's what the tails smells like, okay? So we don't do anything here is automated. Other than this part here, we have cooling jackets on this that keep it below 90 degrees. That's the only part of the automation that we have here. So what they do here is they can tell by the temperature that it's coming off of, the ABV and touch and smell coming off. So usually, if this is distilling, the still is, it's distilling and it's coming out of here. So this barometer will actually be floating. So they can tell by the temp that's coming off, what proof it's sitting at, and then they'll sit here and touch it, smell it, taste it, and then they can tell by doing that what part of the distillation we're in, what part of the process. So this is the heads, this is the hearts, this is the purest good stuff, and then this is the tails. They must have just emptied it because there's actually nothing in there, but you can still smell it.
you can smell it.
Oh yeah.
So if they were filled, you could actually see the oily top on the heads.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you can smell the difference between that and the hearts. The hearts is a little bit sweeter and cleaner smelling. Okay.
It doesn't smell like a gin walker.
You know.
It actually smells good.
So as it's coming off of our still, we're usually anywhere between a 154 and like a 162 proof at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. So for instance, our bourbon out of our 1,000-pound mash and out of our 500-gallon distillation will yield roughly about 42 to 46 usable gallons. Our rye, since we are 100% rye, we are only going to recover about 38 usable gallons out of 500 gallons of distillation. So that's why everybody else like backfills their ryes.
Right.
There's less than 20% distilleries in the world that are 100% rye. We are one of them. Okay, we want to give you the purest product possible. Not to say anything bad about the other people that backfill, but they'll backfill with a barley or another grain to get a longer distillation, to get more of a distillation product out of there. Okay.
Interesting.
So that's why we only yield about 38 usable
I did not
gallons.
know that.
Yeah. So after the distillation is done,
Right.
we'll then pump it out here into these totes. All these are our holding totes. So all of our barrels are 53-gallon barrels. So obviously you can't do one distillation to one barrel. So what we do is we usually do about 6 distillations before we start filling up barrels. So all of these will tell you what is in here. So like this one here is bourbon hearts. So this is the good stuff here. It'll tell you each distillation what proof that it went in at. Okay. Then before we go to put it in the barrels, we'll get the final ABV proof on it. And by law, you cannot go into a barrel above 125 proof. We go in at 110 proof. Okay. So what they'll do is once they get the final proof on here, they can tell by the weight, putting on the scale how much reverse osmosis water they have to add in there to proof it down to the 110. Okay.
Nice.
So all these totes are currently holding something in them. So here's the heads and the tails. So the heads and the tails, we recover in a different tote, and about once a quarter we will rerun that through the pot, and we can recover about 5% usable product out of that. The rest of it is cleaning supplies around the distillery, or it was hand sanding when we made hand sanitizer during
Right.
COVID. Yep.
Cool.
At present, we roughly have about 2,200 barrels in here at the moment. So all these are brand new barrels sitting up here. All these ones down here are ones that they have pulled down to make the next batch, or they are single barrel samples that I've had them pull down
Nice.
as well.
2,500 barrels.
You guys char your barrels?
Yes, so everything has a char level 3, so
Level
that's what a
3.
3 looks like. So if you don't know what a char level is, you have anywhere between a 1 and a 5. A 1, the easiest way for me to break it down for people is, a 1 is like taking a lighter to a piece of bread. A number 5 is when you've had that rough Friday night and you forget that pizza in the oven. And there's nothing left but ash, that's a 5. So we actually do a level 3 right in the middle.
Nice.
What cooperage do you use? I see Mo.
So we do Independent Stave,
Stave,
out
yeah.
of Lebanon, Missouri. Yep. So they have 2 locations. They have Lebanon, Missouri, and they have Lebanon, Kentucky.
Kentucky, yep.
They supply about 85% of North America with barrels. They're the largest cooperage in North America.
Yep. I saw the Mo on there and I was thinking.
Yep.
Because they determine which one it is by, they'll have KY if it's
Yep.
Kentucky or
Yep.
MO if it's Missouri.
Yep. And so we also do the premium barrels, which are, so you can get 2 different kind of barrels. You can either get ones where they kiln dry them, where you can get it in about 3 months. Or ours are their premium barrels, where it takes 2 years for us to get them. So what they do is when they cut them into the slats and they put them in a rick house outside and let them naturally dry. So obviously it's a little bit more of a premium price, but overall it's a better barrel in the long run. So yeah, we use the premium barrels on that. So any of the smaller barrels you see back there,
Yeah.
those are more likely the ones that we're using to blend into those other ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We do not rotate our barrels. The only time that they come down is if they're either leaking or after 2 years, because they taste every barrel after about 2.5 years, is just to see where it's at. If they don't like what's happening, then they will move to another part in the rick house. Okay. Or the only time they actually get quote unquote rotated is if they pull them down for single barrel samples for me. So what I mean by that is that either off-premise to liquor stores or on-premise to bars and restaurants that I do them with also. So they just don't pull down that barrel, that barrel, that barrel for samplings. They actually do a random. So they'll do top to bottom, inside to outside, because they all have different characteristics where they're in the rick house. Because up top will be completely different from what's at the bottom or in the inside, because it's more insulated as well.
Very cool.
So this back rack here, this is where either we have specialty finishes or barrels that are getting real close to their 5-year update. So all of our brown spirits are aged for a minimum of 5 years. So this is where everything comes that's getting ready to come down, it's getting ready to celebrate its 5th birthday, or specialty finishes up here as well.
And when did you guys start?
2010.
2010.
So for the first 2 years, all we sent out to market was our vodka and our white whiskey. Because we waited for everything to come of age. We never sourced any of our bourbons or whiskey. Everything has been 100% our juice since day one. So after about 2.5 years, they started releasing our bourbon and our rye, but at that time there was only 2.5 years of age, where now everything is a minimum of 5.
So you have a 10-year rye whiskey that you're releasing?
We just released it in November. All of our spent grain, because you have to do something with it, what we do is it comes through this trough system up here.
Yeah.
15% of it roughly goes back into the mash, because we are our sour mash. We'll go back into the mash for our next starter. The rest of it comes down here, goes in these holding bins, and then goes into these totes here. They must have just came and picked up. So we have a dairy farmer down in Lewisburg, Kansas, about 45 minutes south of us, that comes and picks up this spent grain that we give to him for free that he mixes in to feed with his dairy cattle, saving roughly about $100,000 a year.
Yep.
There's so much nutrients in it still. There's still a little ABV in there, so they're the drunken happy cows. yes, they are.
Happy cows.
So yeah, because everybody has to do something with their spent grain.
Yeah.
Patrick autographs every single bottle, by the way.
Oh, he does?
Yes.
That's
Yep.
what he does right there.
Yeah.
Oh,
You should get
So-
it. Make sure you get a video.
Yeah. So Derek is the gentleman in the black. He's our head bottler. So what he does, so we're a small batch distillery, and so there's no regulation on what a small batch can be. For us, it's only 6 barrels at a time is what we do for a batch. Okay. So where we go from reverse, where we put the distillation in the totes, it's reverse.
Hey, Patrick, I'm not buying all those bottles. You know that, right?
You're gonna take them in the truck.
Okay, then they'll come in, they'll fill 4 bottles at a time. So usually Derek and then Sam, who's floating around somewhere on bottling days, they'll come in here. One of them will be filling it up, sliding down to the table. The other guy will be putting the stopper in it. Once they're done with the entire tote, then they come and they actually use the heads and the tails part is our cleaner. So that's what they spray. That's what they see spraying down the bottle with it right now.
Yeah.
Spray down just to get any lint or handprints, anything that's been on there. He'll wipe it all down so they're completely done with the entire thing. Then Derek will actually hand label every single bottle, put on the safety strap, the plastic seal, and then the heat gun. Okay. Then, which we call it signing day, where Patrick comes in and literally
Does nothing else with that.
yeah. So what he does is he will hold it up to the light, make sure there's no impurities inside the bottle, look at the label, make sure it's on straight. Then he will actually write what batch we're on, what bottle number that is, and then sign it. He signs all of the brown spirits other than the Rolling Standard is the only one that he does not hand sign. So literally when I tell people that by the time that this bottle touches your hands, maybe 5 people have touched it. So yeah, we have no automated bottling line. All the labels are put on by hand, and I'll show you the bottles. We don't use a stamp. He actually does. He's not in here just pretending and signing bottles for you guys today. He does this all the time.
Oh, man.
awesome.
My
Yeah.
hand hurts just thinking about
Yeah.
it. Like one day.
No, I mean, it's crazy.
I mean, yeah, I mean, one batch could be 1,800 bottles.
That'll hurt.
It just sits there.
I know,
Yeah.
all
And
day.
he puts the numbers and they put
Yeah.
the signature.
Well, if you guys get bigger, he'll probably
Yeah.
reconsider his.
I mean, he's done it for 12 years actually signing the brown bottles now. So why stop now?
Right?
Yep. Grab a seat, we'll get started. So we're gonna start out with the Ryder vodka. Okay.
Yeah, it is
It is a 100% Kansas wheat vodka. It is 6 times distilled and slow filtered. So right off the nose, you're not gonna get that rubbing alcohol or that ethanol smell that you get at 90% of other ones. make it like a little like cream, maybe a little vanilla, and maybe a little bit of citrus notes on it. It is a very easy sipping vodka. It's an 80 proof. I used to be a huge vodka guy back in the day.
Yeah.
And I wish this was around when because I would drink. My poison was Kettle One back in the day. I wish this was around back then. So this is the long shot. This is our white whiskey. Okay. Obviously, the majority of people don't know what a white whiskey is. They think of either moonshine or Everclear or Backwoods Hooch. Okay. So by law, for us to be able to put the whiskey name on there, it does have to touch an oak barrel. So what we do is after we distill it, it cools down. It does go into an oak barrel for a minimum of 120 minutes. Think of it almost like a tequila, like a Blanco almost. Okay. So our number one asked for cocktail here at our event space is a whiskerita. So instead of a margarita, we do a whiskerita with this.
I could see that. It's pretty stout.
Any other thing you would normally do a vodka, a tequila, or a gin with, you can absolutely sub this in place of it and still keep your whiskey forward presence there. I put it in my Bloody Marys and my screwdrivers at home. Okay, so this is the Rolling Standard.
Roller Standard, okay,
Patrick, you want to talk
92.
about Rolling Standard?
Sure. The Rolling Standard came up. It's a blend of 2 batches of in-house. There were test batches at the time, so it was aged. And then we also have our malt whiskey number 5 recipe that's aged. And we combine the 2 recipes, and we get. We also have we infuse a little bit of rye. Add a little bit of rye too to give it the 4 grains.
So this is the rye. It's at 100% rye. This, even before I was employed by them, this was my everyday drinker, and now it's still my everyday drinker. I love this product.
This is 100%
Absolutely.
rye.
100% rye.
You no wonder you love it.
Yeah.
Why she loves wine.
Are you talking about
She likes
Trish?
those spice bombs.
Yes.
I was like, you're not talking about me.
Yeah. So the last one there is our barrel strength rye. So I actually refer to it as the lady rye, even though it is a higher proof. It has more of the caramel and vanillas in there, I think.
Ooh, those are my favorite.
Where the proof down one is my gentleman rye is what I refer to, where it has more of the baked spices and peppery to it. But yeah, still again, 100% rye, 5+ years of age.
Scary.
What we've been doing lately is trying to. We have the supply now where we can actually mimic the barrel strength and the regular proof. We're pulling like kind of the same barrels.
Okay.
Trying to be like, okay, if you really kind of want to get an idea of what these, we're trying to pull like the same lots, like where, okay, because we're keeping it at barrel strength, but then we had to water down for the 93, but we still would like to kind of keep it kind of similar, you know, in profiles.
Which is
like,
hard. Adding water to something does change the profile.
It does change the profile a bunch.
It does.
But yeah, we're just trying to be a little bit more creative, like so that when people taste it, like okay, we actually had enough of these lots that we were able to kind of.
Yeah.
It is very good.
This is, the next one is the Rivalist.
Okay.
It's the American single malt whiskey. We released it just coming up on 2 year, right? Next month, or in August.
Yeah, we've done about 6 batches of it so far.
Yep. Just won double gold in Best in Show at the New York Spirit Festival about 6 months ago.
Congratulations.
And just won double gold at the San Francisco Spirit Festival in April.
Super Bowl.
Wow, cool.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
These guys know what they're doing.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
great.
That's cool because
Double
it's
gold, baby.
one of our newest. I
Yeah.
mean, we call it our newest, but we were working on it for about 7 years.
Right.
Are you guys
years.
Yeah.
So yeah, got that
Chocolate.
funky
Chocolate and caramel.
Yeah.
that you're looking for at the
So it's
end.
100% malted barley, huh?
But I was
So, $1 million question for you. How do you drink your bourbon?
bourbon. I drink it, neat, or I will drink it with, at home. I'll just actually get like some Sprite.
Okay.
So that's how we do it.
Yeah.
So we drink again, like if it's a chill night, we just want it. We want to get the full effect, the full flavor. We're gonna drink it neat.
Yeah.
But if it just, I want to crack a bourbon up, I put my feet up on the couch, I got some Sprite.
Yeah. I do
some
Sprite or I do ginger
some
ale.
lemon
Yeah.
or some lime juice.
Yeah.
That's
Dr. Pepper. We're Dr. Pepper.
Dr.
Yeah?
Pepper.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I get fancy with the ginger beer sometimes.
Ooh.
Ginger
Ooh, I
beer.
love ginger beer.
Love ginger beer.
Oh,
Yeah, and but yeah, it's got the ginger, especially with the rye.
Well, that's right.
Probably brings out those.
Brings out that it's not too sweet. You know, sometimes
Right.
the bourbon makes the ginger ale a little bit too sweet, but